Hello and welcome to Feel Centered and Powerful Now, my mini class for sensitive souls. I'm Dr. Kyra Mesich, author of The Strength of Sensitivity. I'm a holistic psychotherapist and my passion is empowering sensitive people to live lives of clarity, peace, and lighthearted joy. In this class, I'm going to cover 3 things with you that you are likely doing that are derailing you, pulling out of your center and away from your power. So let's go ahead and get started. Number 1 is about how you define yourself as a sensitive person. Now, most of us know that being sensitive is an emotionally laden word. Nobody wants to be considered to be too sensitive. In fact, most of us have heard that more than once in our lives from somebody in a dismissive sort of tone. Oh, you're just being too sensitive. On the flip side, nobody wants to be insensitive. If you tell someone they're being insensitive, they'll say, I'm not being insensitive, I care. So you can't win with this word. It's a very emotionally laden word. So let's look at this for just a moment and think about it and how you are defining yourself as a sensitive person. When people come to my workshops or they come to a session, they're often already saying things to me like, Dr. Kyra, I wish I wasn't so sensitive. I can't stand being so sensitive. It drives me crazy. And so they have a real animosity with their sensitivity and who they are. So in order for you to get clear on that, what I'd like you to do is a very quick exercise with me here. Close your eyes, take in a nice deep breath. And think about the word sensitive. Or even say to yourself, I am sensitive. And immediately, what comes to you when you think of the word sensitive? What immediately comes to your mind? When I do this with people in workshops, generally what will come up for people is right away a feeling of weakness, maybe an image of being weak, feeling overwhelmed or not able to handle circumstances. Now on the flip side, people sometimes will think about, right away, something will come up about being sensitive, such as being able to communicate and really understand animals, really being a great musician, being happy in nature. So yes, there's those positive sides, but you need to be aware of what's really coming up first for you when you think about being a sensitive person. And if it's that feeling of being weak, being easily overwhelmed, not being able to control your own responses, then recognize that every time you say to yourself, I'm a sensitive person, or yeah, I'm really sensitive, you're really saying to yourself, I'm weak. I can't even control the way my own body responds to things. Step back. We need to redefine what sensitivity really is for you and what you mean by that when you refer to yourself that way. How can you feel powerful if you're calling yourself not powerful? That's just logical, right? So what I'm going to do now is read for you something out of my book. Yeah, I have to read out of my book. I wrote this a while ago. Cut me some slack. So I'm going to go to chapter 1, which I've titled Highly Sensitive versus Highly Perceptive. And I'm going to go to page 15, where I've listed 10 traits of being a sensitive person. This is a new way of thinking about your sensitivity. So just sit back and just listen to these for a moment. These are the traits of sensitivity. Number 1, acute, sharp sensory processing. Number 2, greater brain activity in response to stimuli. And I do cite the scientific studies that relate to that statement in my book. Number 3, powerful emotions. Number 4, quick reactions by our nervous system. Number 5, strong autonomic responses in our body, referring to our autonomic nervous system and our digestion, our heart, our organs. Number 6, empathic, conscientious, and compassionate. Number 7, creative, with an appreciation for art and beauty. Number 8, very perceptive, with awareness of energies from others and from the environment. Number 9, intuitive. And number 10, a love of nature. Now, is there anything in that list that seems like it would be very detrimental or a weakness or something that would prevent you from living a strong, powerful life? No, sometimes people might argue about the emotional part, but being aware of our emotions is a great guidance system to help us make the best choices for us in our lives. So let's, for a moment here, take a break from defining ourselves as being sensitive in that old way and thinking of sensitivity as a weakness or something we need to overcome. Think about these traits I just read to you. Being very perceptive, having a body that's clear in how it communicates with us, being intuitive. So let's play with it a little bit. And the next time somebody says to you, are you just being too sensitive? You can ask them, oh, are you saying that I am being too perceptive of the circumstances happening here? We can even joke with ourselves. But next time you get ready to be frustrated with yourself and say, oh, I'm so sensitive. Stop. I'm so perceptive of what is actually best for me. Which sounds silly to say it, and that's the point of doing it. So that you can kind of laugh and recognize that being highly perceptive is a strength, and it's an amalgamation of skills and abilities we have that can really bring us into a centered, powered place in our life. All right, so now number 2 is trying to fit in and live like everybody else does. And what I'm primarily talking about with this is that standard way of living life that is about reacting to everything that we're given during the day. I'm really talking about United States culture here, but in modern society, this is pretty typical everywhere. Let's give an example here. So let's say you wake up in the morning and immediately you start thinking about everything you need to get done that day. So you start getting the kids ready for school, you throw on some makeup, you open your closet and you realize, I didn't take my shirt out of the dryer last night, so now it's all wrinkled and I'm not going to be able to wear that. So we start getting something else. The kids are complaining about something, so you're reacting to what's going on with them. You're trying to plan out what you need to do and how much time you have to get to where you need to get. And then you run out the door, possibly still eating your breakfast. And the day just continues that way, reacting to everything that's happening. I like to think about this like a pinball machine, showing my age here. When I was a kid, I used to often go to the bowling alley and play the pinball machines. So think about that pinball machine. You pull back the plunger and the metal ball goes ping, and it's boing, 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 reacting, bouncing off of everything that it's hitting, everything that it's encountering. It's just bouncing off of it, bouncing off of it, bouncing off of it. And the game gets noisier and noisier and noisier as it goes on. And there's things happening that are pretty overstimulating and also inconsequential, really, to what's actually happening with the ball. Then finally that ball goes down the chute and that part of the game is over. So in life, when we're doing this, when we're reacting, when we're bouncing off of what's happening and just constantly reacting and bouncing, we go down that chute either intentionally or unintentionally. We go down that chute unintentionally often by getting really overwhelmed by what's happening, so we just can no longer even make a decision or figure out what to do in that particular moment. Or we go down that chute unintentionally because we get a headache, or we'll realize we haven't eaten and we get so hungry the blood sugar starts to dive, and so we go down the chute. We can also do that intentionally sometimes when we realize, okay, I just got to get out of here. Go take a long lunch break somewhere outside of the office, or I'm going to call my friend and just talk for a moment and just think about something different. So those are the ways that we might intentionally go down the chute, but we're still playing the game. So where does our power go? When we're just reacting and bouncing off of everything that's happening. Not only what people give us and the circumstances we're given, but our own thoughts. So say we think something like, I have that big meeting I have to prepare for today. Oh, Greg is going to be there. Oh, I can't stand dealing with him. He's been so annoying lately. And now what do I have to do to prepare for this? So now we're not only reacting to a circumstance, We're reacting to our own reactions. So it's a never-ending reaction sort of game. That's why I like to call it the pinball game. So where is our power in that? It's lost. It just isn't there. So what can you do to start getting that back? And here's where I'll refer to my notes to keep me on track here. What to do about that pinball game and that reacting? First of all, realize that that way of living is a choice. You do not have to live that way. Yes, this is the way it typically goes for most people. This is what most people do, but that is not the only choice in how to live. So, as a sensitive soul, you need to realize that your power is in the pauses. Not in the reactions, but in the times and the moments that we take in between what's happening. So what do I mean by that? The power is in the pause. Here's an example. So let's say, rather than getting up in the morning and immediately starting to think about what you need to do that day, you wake up in the morning and you pull out perhaps a notebook like this or your journal, and you write down how you want the day to go. Not what's going to happen or what you're afraid might happen, how you want the day to go. So you wake up and you get your little journal and you write, today's a really nice day. I see that the weather is great. I had a good night's sleep. Now, if you didn't, don't start it that way. Just start with, today is going to be a day where I feel centered and powerful. And I have a big meeting coming up. That meeting is going to go really well. And I'm going to convey my points clearly and feel good about the way the meeting has gone. The kids are going to cooperate with me this morning, and we'll all get off to school and off to work on time. That's a pause. Some people call that pre-paving, pre-planning. That's a pause. Before you immediately jump into the pinball game, it's a pause to recognize your own power in creating the day that you desire. So that's my tip for that. There's a lot of other topics, and we could talk about that all day. That could be a workshop in and of itself. But recognize that your power is in the pause. So let's say you forget to do that in the morning, or you didn't have time, your alarm went off late. Now you're already in the day, you're already in the pinball game. That's okay, no problem. Stop. So let's say you have a phone call to make. It only takes 15 seconds, no time at all, to pause for a moment before you make the call. Pause for a moment, breathe. This client is happy to hear from me, and we have a good successful call. It doesn't take more than 20 minutes, and then I'll go on to my next task. Then make the call. Give it a try. You might be looking at me now and saying, oh, Dr. Kyra, right. Well, if you haven't done it, don't knock it. Give it a try, and you will notice profound differences in what happens for you, that you're no longer just a pinball bouncing around, that you're this crazy pinball game where the pinball actually decides where it wants to go, what it wants to interact with, and when it wants to go down the chute. All right, now we're going to move on to number 3. The number 3 thing that you are likely doing that's pulling you off center, and that is accepting that your power is what you can create as a sensitive soul, not in what has happened to you. So a thing that people often do that pulls them off center is looking too much at the past and thinking too much about experiences we've been through, again, about defining who we are. So I've had, just like everybody else in the world, I'll just speak for myself, a life filled with disappointments, regrets, things that didn't go all that great, bad memories, the list can go on and on and on. I can look at those things and I can decide that those define who I am. And what our brain is trained to do, the way our brains work, is to look at those things that have happened in the past and make a decision that, oh, well, they're just going to repeat. Or be in fear and anxiety about what can we do to not have that happen again. All right, so we put too much weight and emphasis on what has happened to us in the past rather than opening up all of our possibilities of what we could create in the now. So I'm going to say that one more time. This is a thing we all do that pulls us off center and pulls us out of our power. We put too much weight and emphasis on what has happened in the past in our life. That puts us in a box, and it limits what we think we're even capable of creating in our life now. So instead, recognizing that as sensitive souls, we are the most creative people on the planet. Therefore, we can use our imagination, we can use our creativity, we can use our ability to think outside the box to get out of that crazy pattern of this is something that happened to me, therefore it's going to happen again, or therefore that's all that's available for me in my life, is repeating that kind of pattern. Whoa, whoa, whoa. So those positive things we have of being a sensitive soul, even if you don't consider yourself to be an artist and creative in that way, you still are creative in the way you think. You see things differently than a lot of people do, right? That's what I'm talking about. You can see outside the box. You can see the possibilities that other people just miss. You can stop for a moment and use your imagination to consider what it is that you really would like to create for your life. So recognize right here, right now, in this moment, from here forward, you can use that creativity and you can use that skill you have of thinking outside the box, thinking beyond what you've been through, what has happened. And you can use that and utilize that. So I'm going to go right back to number 2, what I just said. How would you utilize that? By doing exactly what I said, utilizing the power of the pause. Pausing for a moment. And if you don't have your journal to write, that's fine. And let's say you're sitting in traffic and you realize that you need to make a really important phone call. When you get off of lunch, when you get back to lunch, you need to make a really important phone call. And this is an important client who's annoyed about something with the department. So, in that moment, the old style would be thinking about the ways you communicated with this client in the past, the ways that your boss told you you need to deal with this, and the ways that you are fearing it will repeat. Instead, going to the moment of the pause, saying to yourself, I am highly perceptive, and I am creative, and I can think outside the box about how this phone call is going to go. So, like I said, even if you're just driving and so you're not able to write at that moment, you can think to yourself and use your imagination. We daydream all the time, so why not use your imagination to create your life? You can daydream. All right, I pick up the phone. I'm feeling very centered, and the client answers. And I'm going to start off with just a little bit of chit-chat first. I'm going to get a feeling, because I'm so perceptive, I'm going to get a feeling of how they're feeling today, and maybe even make a little joke, tell a little story to see how they're feeling, feel them out. And then I'll know, are they in a hurry today, or are they willing to chat? What do they want? Then I'm going to ask them to tell me what they need and want, rather than me going into emergency mode and expressing these things that my boss told me to do. I'm going to ask them, I'm going to ask that person, what do they need and what do they want the outcome to be? And I will see how I can do to create that, or at least as close to a compromise as I can create about that. And then I'm going to be in charge of the call and have a very good outcome for the call. Ta-da! That's completely different from putting all the weight on, oh, this is the way this worked in the past. I know it's going to be an annoying call. They're a crabby old client. They're never happy with anything we do. We have to stop ourselves from going down that path and recognize that our power is in the pause and in the now. And as sensitive souls, that is our great gift. All right, my sensitive souls. So that's your little mini class for today. I think I've given you 3, outside the box kind of ideas that are going to bring you back into center, back into your power that you can implement immediately. You can stop watching this and immediately implement any of those things. So you might be wondering what other things I offer. Please go to my website, drkyra.com, or if you are already there, then make sure that you sign up for my newsletter, because that's going to keep you updated of my podcast, my latest blogs, my latest offerings. Keep in mind that I do work with people around the world by Skype or by phone, so don't think that I can't possibly support you if you're not in the United States. We live in a world where we can connect no matter where we are. And so thank you again for watching this. I really appreciate you taking the time. Please share this with your friends. You've got a friend or two who does understand you and is also a sensitive soul. Please share this with them so that you can support each other and reminding each other about these 3 things: defining yourself, finding the power in the pause, and also not putting the weight on the past, putting the potential in the now. All right, this is Dr. Kyra signing off. Thank you, and remember that your most important duty is taking care of you. Bye-bye.